Okay, but it,
There's no internet access.
well, I'm not going to close my computer. I'm sorry, I'm taking notes.
Please advise us.
Their electronic to take notes for the purpose of a subsequent article is probably to be allowed, but with the request that none of the, that there be no communication, no texting, no sending out tweets that are live from this meeting that people can look at.
Send all they want after the meeting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, but can I ask a question? I understand that's a request as opposed to, I mean, it's a public meeting
It is a public meeting.
and this is a request.
This is a request
Okay.
that things not be transmitted live from this meeting.
Okay, thank you.
You agreeing with that, Trish?
I'm agreeing that she's made the request.
I think what she's saying is a request and not a requirement.
Right.
She may
I
or
don't
may not-
intend to tweet live,
she
but
may or
I'm
may
going to
not
leave that
choose
option
to
open.
Adhere to your request.
Right.
Okay. Would you bring Mr. Kelly in, please? Mr. Craig Kelly. What we'll try to do is give you up to 5 minutes, Mr. Kelly, if you would, just tell us a little bit about who you are and why you'd like to be on the school board.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, thank you very much to the Hoover City Council for allowing me to interview for this position on the school board. I understand this is a very, very important, very responsible position. I appreciate the opportunity to be here and be able to talk. We're asked to say a little bit about ourselves. If you don't mind, I just want to take it a second. I try not to read it all, but I'm 59 years old. I've lived in Hoover on and off for 34 years. Most of my life, I moved away for about a year and a half to the same job I have now and returned to Hoover. I have 3 children. They've been educated in the public school system in Hoover 100%. I have a senior at Hoover High School right now. Will graduate on time this year. My children have participated as well as in school and after school events such as cheerleading, varsity sports, middle school sports. My daughter is a Hoover Belle. My wife has attended volunteer events at the school over the years. We try to be good community parents as well as encourage our children to participate in the Hoover school events. I'd like to tell you how important my parents are. My father's name is Charles Kelly. He still lives. He was a World War II veteran. Retired from the Alabama National Guard as an officer. He also spent 39 and a half years as director of the Alabama Game Fish Division, state of Alabama. He was on the governor's cabinet for 2 years. I want to tell you that's who I learned from. Very disciplined person. I grew up listening to the phone calls. I've been a Senate page when I was very small. So I grew around government. I've always been fascinated by it. My job is in the private sector now, and always has been. I thoroughly enjoyed the small association I've had with the city of Hoover to this point, and I have a genuine interest in seeing the city progress, and especially the school system. Both of my parents are alive. My mother has the compassion and love of a good mother, and between the discipline of my father, the combination I'm still learning to love.
Thank you. Questions? Mr. Smith?
If we could, I'd like to start at the other end.
We'll flip-flop it. Mr. Lyden?
Well, I guess the rookie gets to go first. Mr. Kelly, I think I speak on behalf of each of my colleagues here and of course the general public in thanking you for your interest in this. Not only thank you for your interest in the school board, but for the time you've given the city of Hoover up till now. Finance seems to be the hot topic for the Hoover City School System. You talked a little bit about it in your application. Go a little deeper with us, if you don't mind, on how you see the next few years playing out, and what your role in that solution will be.
Mr. Lyda, I've studied as much as I could. Unfortunately, I studied before this application came up. I try to keep up with what goes on in this city. It's very important to me. I read 2 newspapers a day when possible, including Montgomery Advertiser, which obviously has a lot to do with our budgets. it's obvious we're at deficit spending levels with our school board right now. We cannot continue to spend at the current projected budget deficit of $17 million. Something has got to be done. We've got to cut costs. I don't have the magic wand to sit here and tell you how we cut those costs. I can only promise you that I would study. Understand the city of Hoover is very generous with the funds that they're giving to the Hoover school system right now. I think areas need to be considered way before the city of Hoover is asked to give from the general fund back to the school system. I cannot tell you specifically where the cuts would be. I studied all the public information that I could to get to where I am today without being part of this board and talking to the elected officials when proper. I couldn't tell you item by item where these cuts need to be, but they got to be significant.
Dr. Lott?
I don't have a question right now, Jack. I'm listening to everybody else.
Mrs. Gill?
Mr. Kelly, thank you for being here. I've read all the applications in detail, and I'm really impressed with your written answers. First of all, let me explain to Mr. Lyda, we don't view him as a rookie, just a freshman. But let me ask you one thing, and first of all, I don't think it would be your position to answer where the cuts would be. I'm sure y'all have work study sessions where y'all discuss and evaluate budget items and that kind of thing, but it'd probably be up to the superintendent to make those recommendations, and you vote up or down and make your positions known. But it came to my attention that the school board does not exactly handle the bid process the way we do, and that the vendors, the name of the vendors and what they're bidding on and what the amounts of the bids are and that kind of thing are not fully discussed and not fully available to the public. What would be your justification or rationale to accept that kind of recommendation, that kind of information not be made available to the public?
Well, be sure I answer you correctly. I think they should follow the bid laws of the state of Alabama, and when not required to, they should emulate them. There should be nothing hidden from the public to the point of not hindering the school system to be able to purchase and operate as it should. But I wouldn't know why there's a reason for that to be given in the first place, if that's what's been done.
Okay. I'm not saying hidden, but not disclosed.
Undisclosed,
Yeah, not disclosed. But, okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Mr. Admiral Matter?
Mr. Kelly, again, thank you for being here.
Thank you for your service, sir.
Quite well. I hear nothing but good things about you from the Park and Recreation Board. So, again, my congratulations to you on that. The question concerning the most responsible, most important responsibility of a Hoover school board member, you say employ the most capable superintendent of education as possible. Are you trying to tell us something there, or just what are you saying in that particular answer?
And no matter something is wrong, he is at the top. He's employed, responsible, like Mr. Skelton said, bring challenges to the school board to repair what is broken. He would be the first one I would ask to answer why this remedy hasn't been brought forward to this point to avoid the deficit spending that we're at to now. I could be wrong on that responsibility assumption, but I would look to the superintendent of education to bring forward some meaningful remedies to the problem we have now. If that assumption's wrong, please tell me.
I can't answer that question. But again, you do say employ the most capable superintendent. Are you saying that he's not capable, or he is capable, or you're going to dialogue with him and then determine whether or not he stays or goes?
It's an annual vote.
I'm just trying to find out what.
Admiral Natter, I wouldn't have a position if I were to say to vote on Mr. Craig today or not, but I do think if Mr. Craig is not getting the job done, then we need to have the most capable person employed as superintendent of education.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Green?
Question I have, how would you balance, if you're selected, how would you balance your decisions as a member of the board with the input of parents and teachers?
One thing I've learned at Parks and Recreation, when I first got on that board, is as I am today, very excited just to be able to talk to my neighbors, to listen to them. And I found out very soon, everybody calls and wants something done. 9 times out of 10 when they call you, they've already gone there. Everybody knows before they call. So I have learned to temper thinking that I had a magic wand where I could take care of something for them by phone call. So I have learned to listen
budget that he proposes is not, he is not the final authority on that, the board is.
Understand.
Okay.
Mr. Kelly, I guess you already know that Mr. Moss is going to be lobbying for a while to make sure that somebody gets it other than you. He says you're the best board member he's got.
Appreciate this, Mr. Moss.
But, you understand, from some of the other questions, the working of the school board, with the superintendent. That the school board doesn't set the agenda, the superintendent does, the board just votes the agenda. But the board doesn't have to follow the superintendent's request. They can deny, deny a $17 million deficit budget, and send it back to him, for more repair. I know the situation that they're in now isn't gonna be fixed overnight, but he announced last summer that there were issues, created a lot of problems within the community, but has yet to mention anything. Have you followed
Yes, sir.
all that? Do you have any thoughts about what you have read, heard, talked about, understood?
Mr. Smith, no, I don't have any definite answers. I do know the most controversial issue that came up, and I understand it's been reviewed by one authority. I don't know that that's the answer. It certainly would be a part. I'm not saying I agree with that argument that was made, but that certainly would be something looked at. Class sizes, there's all kinds of things. Yes, I read the paper, so I'm not endorsing any situations for put forward, but something's got to give. If the superintendent can't come forward with a budget cut significant enough to get us where we need to be, we're gonna be in trouble. We'll be to the state attorney very soon. We'll be to the minimum, just like another municipality is close to us. Once we get past there in a very short period of time, we'll be below, we won't have any reserve funds left at all. Something's got to give. I don't have an answer to what's gonna give. The superintendent of education can't bring us a ring with this and we can bleeding stop, then something else needs to be done.
There are a lot of questions that I had that you answered in your responses in the application itself. I think that's probably why several of us probably hadn't gotten any deeper, than we have. Not to say that we'll be the same with other candidates or whatever. You want this appointment.
Yes, sir.
How many board meetings have you ever attended?
I attended one 2 years ago when I attended one more day.
Why would you want something that you really haven't had much interest in until now?
I live here, I love Hoover, it's my city. A little bit of way I contributed on the, excuse me, the problems got me. A little bit of way I contributed to the Hoover Parks and Recreation. I totally understand this is a different situation here. I enjoy the challenge. I have a full-time job, I have to travel. My oldest son is graduating. I'll be an empty nester. I get up in the morning, reading newspapers, reading any information I get my hands on. I'm familiar with our state legislature, how it operates. I'm familiar with the general fund, how it operates, the education fund that funds us. Our teacher salaries affect what goes on here out of our state budget. I enjoy knowing that. I mean, I would have felt comfortable probably interviewing without state. It's a challenge. And, I enjoy understanding and learning what goes on. I see how we're doing as well as the state of Alabama. We've got some serious things coming up. We've got the Alabama Accountability Act. What are we going to do there? I mean, we've got things to consider. We're going to have a lot of things over here, questions asked there. Common Core. I couldn't tell you right now what I think about Common Core. We've got conservatives, liberals, both, and they're both on either side of the edge. There's going to be compliance issues we've got to deal with. Somebody has got to be able to understand, and when the opportunity arises, take our case to the state house. Yes, sir.
How many park board meetings did you attend before you were appointed to that board?
None?
I just asking that for,
I think that's right. This is only as
get the relation.
Thank you, Dr. White.
Mr. Knapp,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Kelly, it's sort of trite, but you said a lot, and I appreciate what you said. It rings a good bell for me. But with all that, could you summarize that, sort of describing yourself using, say, 3 adjectives or so?
I'm a lot in what sense? I mean, you talking about time or?
No, I'm talking about your personality. And I sense from what you said, you know, you're not a follower, you're sort of a leader. But describe your personality using a couple of adjectives.
Show your, you said adjectives, let me show you my composition. I'm a listener, proactive when needed, when necessary. I can't do this in 3 words.
It's not a trick question, I mean, I'm just trying to get to know you.
If you're looking at use sentences, maybe, yes, sir, I appreciate that. I can go to Spain Park High School. I put in an application, I wasn't going to say much about it, but I'm a state high school baseball official. I've been one for 34 years. I'm now a state instructor for officials. I enjoy it. That pays nothing. Umpire baseball averages about $10 an hour in high school baseball, so it's not a paying job. The responsibility I enjoy, and you know what I enjoy more than any other game I've done state. I've done multiple contests, state situations, and the most enjoyable part of doing a contest is to do a playoff or a state finals when people don't know who you are. You can go out there and do your job, do a good job, and leave, and nobody knows who you are. That's kind of what I do in life. If I can do something worthwhile, not embarrass myself or my family, I can go home and feel good about myself without somebody calling me on the phone saying, good job, you did great, I don't need a pat on the back. Nobody knows me in the city of Hoover.
Would it be safe to say that you are your own person?
Yes, sir. Sorry, I'm the wrong person.
any additional questions for Mr. Kelly?
Do you have anything that you would have expected to be asked but weren't and would like to bring up?
I had some notes, I guess closing notes, but I thank you to the council. You probably asked some of the things I think that are very important. I mean, our revenue stream is variable. It's always going to be variable. Contribution from the state, federal government. The only thing fixed we have right now is 1% sales tax fund, and it's not fixed because we're spending it on it. Spending on operating expenses rather than spending on debt service. So, to me, that's a simple fix. It's a fix to understand that we cannot continue to deficit spending. I don't have the answer. I would pray that our superintendent has the answer for us to consider to get this fixed. I just mentioned Common Core and Alabama accountability. These are some compliance issues. These are some things that can be discussed and determined. Our state legislature right now is trying to ban Common Core. I don't know what my position is on Common Core. I really don't. I've read everything I could. I don't understand. Somebody's got to have a position that understands what's best for Hoover City Schools. I'll study. I'll talk to the head of banking in the state of Alabama. Is a very close personal friend of mine. The governor's cabinet, Secretary of Agriculture is a very close friend of mine. And I only say that. I like to ask people like yourselves, people who are elected and responsible, what they think. Not that they're going to make my mind up for me any more than I understand this is a 5-year appointment. I'm not running for office. If you see fit to put me on this board, then it's because you have responsibility to citizens and you're there for that reason. If you appoint me for 5 years to the school board, I'm going to do my job. I'm going to seek your advice when it's proper. I'm going to bring you to the best I can in the situations I'm dealing with as long as it follows the city code. I'll never do anything that does not. That's just a couple of notes. I had some others, but one thing that does concern me is our ACT scores at Spain Park High School and Hoover High School were down. They were down in the last reporting period. That's a concern. You've got, this is the ultimate measurement, at least in the southern states, to determine when our children are ready to go to college. That's a concern. I don't have the answer for that either, but we've got to educate our children when they're ready to go. And I don't mean just college. A child that goes to the Hoover school system needs to be prepared to be an adult when they choose to go to college, they take a vacation, or what they seek to do in life. we've got to make sure we educate our children. We're a large city, we're the sixth city in Alabama, the sixth largest city in Alabama. We will probably leapfrog Tuscaloosa pretty soon. With a big city like this, we're going to have issues that a Vestavia and a Homewood and a Mountain Brook doesn't, because we're growing. We're going to inherit some situations we've got to deal with. We can't just say we're going to do what we did 10 years ago, what we did 5 years ago. So there's a lot of challenges. This will be a lot of work.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly.
Yes, sir.
Can I real quick?
No, we're on the time. Martin, you go in and make Mr. Harbaugh.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly.
Thank you very much, Council, for allowing me to come in.
Mr. Harbaugh? Good evening. Glad to have you here tonight. Appreciate your application. You have up to 5 minutes to talk a little bit about yourself and why you're seeking the school board position.
Well, I welcome this opportunity. I haven't met all of you, and some of you do know, but I was born here in Birmingham, and I went to school over on the western side of town, and went to Auburn University, and met my wife, who is a very high school graduate, and we made a decision when we wanted to start a family to move here to Hoover, which we did, and we've been here ever since. And, I've been in the financial services business for over 30 years, and got 2 boys that have gone through the Hoover system, and they are now fathers, and I've got 3 grandchildren that will be going through the Hoover system. One's already there now. The reason that I'm interested in this position, first of all, I care. I've spent a lot of hours and being involved in things in this community through our school system. And my father started the City of Midfield school system. He was in the Charter Board of Education. He nominated Robert Bumpus to be their superintendent. And I guess maybe you could say it's in my genes, but I've been involved with young people ever since we married. My wife and I married, and a lot of things that we've done behind the scenes, but I'm involved with 5th graders at Restoration Academy. I've been involved in the Big Brothers program before we had children, and mentored a little boy for 5 years, and I've been involved in the athletic program, youth sports, I mean, you name it, and I've been involved in it, and I just have a passion for young people. And I think that you know, if you care about something and you've got a vested interest, then hopefully, you know, we can make a difference.
Thank you.
Mr. President, we just had a new entry in. I just want to make sure that you're not an applicant, you're just an observer.
No, I am an applicant, I'm sorry.
Okay, you're not allowed to sit in on other people's interviews.
Okay, I'm sorry.
We'll get to you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. You have the first question, Mr. Smith.
Mr. Harbaugh, most of your experience with the school system has been through the booster system, has it not?
Well, most of my involvement, let's go back to when my children were at Green Valley Elementary. My wife was PTO or PTA, whichever it is, president, and I saw a need that the playground was rotten. And on my own, organized a group of people to raise money and sod it, which I did. When I got administrators, I know the principals, and not just from an athletic standpoint, but you hear what's going on in the school system. And having not been to a board meeting, I don't think is going to impact the ability to, listen to the situation, the recommendations, and then make an objective decision one way or the other. I deal with making decisions from a business standpoint all the time, so I don't feel like that's going to be an issue.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. Green?
Question I have, what goals do you hope to achieve if you are selected to serve on the school board? Have you thought about that?
Oh, yeah. Well, I think the thing that, obviously, we all know what the issues are with the school system. I hope that in working with the administration, that I know that having a better communication with our community, also the accountability from a financial and from an educational standpoint, I think is important. I think making sure that the quality of education on the academic side is maintained, if not improved. And then I would hope that through working with, if appointed to the board, and working with the other members of the board, and working with our superintendent and the other administrators, and also with the city, that we can bring or manage this financial situation so that, and I know there's a lot of things going on from a state funding standpoint, from in the number of students. Our student population is just taking off, and being able to manage all that is hopefully something that I would like to see accomplished.
And another question, have you had a chance to look at any numbers? You know how many students we have in our system
Yes, sir.
approximately?
Yes, sir.
How many is that?
A little over 13,000, almost 13,500, something like that.
And our budget, school budget for this year? You
About
haven't looked
100,
at that?
I believe about 167 million.
Thank you.
Admiral Natter?
Mr. Arvo, in one of your answers, you say is to provide, one of the most important responsibilities is to provide a clear vision of the Hoover school system. What is your vision for the Hoover school system?
Well, I think that in lines with the mission statement, I think the vision, or really the goal, should be that quality of education for each student, regardless of their background or what part of Hoover that they live in, should be the utmost importance. And by nature, I'm an amiable person. I like people to get along, and I think that being able to have a smooth operating board and working with all parties in the system is something that I think is important and should be communicated to the community.
So that is your vision?
Well, it's a kind of a rambling vision, but thank you.
Mr. Skeleton?
Mr. Harbaugh, good to see you this afternoon. Thanks for coming in. I've studied all the applications very thoroughly, so I'll try not to duplicate anything in there. But I'm kind of glad you hadn't been to any board meetings, because you may not be sitting here today applying for it had you been there. I see that we're blessed to have 3 of our current board members here, and perhaps, if you get it and once you're there, you're going to ask yourself, why did I want to do this?
Well, I don't.
They take a lot of heat, they put a lot of effort in it, and they put their heart and soul in it, and sometimes there's some carryover for that. But it came to my attention recently that they don't handle their bid processes like the city does. We're pretty open, and I don't like the word transparency, because quite frankly, I think our national leaders would besmirch the very meaning of that. But but the openness of say, bids, who's bidding, the vendors that are bidding, what they're bidding on, and the prices. If you have 5 bids, you know, that those prices, you know, what they submitted, they're not really available to the public, and maybe not to the board. I'm not sure about that. But what would be your judgment and your rationale for accepting a recommendation that you do not disclose the companies and the vendors that are bidding on certain services that the school system has been out to bid, and that the public doesn't have access to that information? Why would you think that would be a good thing?
I don't know that it would be a good thing. I mean, I think that having complete openness, I think is going to eliminate any distrust, any any questions that may be brought up. I mean, I don't have anything to hide, and I'll be honest. You know, this is new to me, but at the same time, I don't shy away from a challenge. And I think, you know, there are certain things that, you know, if it's necessary that they be not disclosed. But my position is, I think that it should be totally, you know, an open book to let the citizens. I mean, if you know, from a citizen standpoint, I want to know what's going on. And I sit back and listen, and I don't have, you know, I may not have gone to board meetings, but I've talked to enough people to know, you know, what is going on. And so, to answer your question, I think I would be opposed to things being closed or not communicated.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Locke?
I'm good.
Mr. Lyons?
Mr. Harbuck, thank you very much for applying. I know I speak for my colleagues when I say how much we appreciate citizens who are interested in serving our city. You having a financial services background is obviously of interest to me. You talked a little bit about it in your application. You already said we have a $167 million budget, but talk a little bit more about the current state of financial affairs at Hoover City Schools and where you see that going in the next 3 to 5 years.
Well, I looked over the budgets, some of the past budgets, and I talked to, which is kind of what I do when I get involved with something. I've talked to administrators and superintendents throughout the community at other systems, and to get feedback on what's going on with them. And I see, obviously, there is a little over $60 million spending deficit, and there's a bunch of items in the budget or in the presentation of things, this committee that was formed, that recommendations that were made, and some of that is having an effect. But you know, we've got a lot of things, you know, working against not just our school system, but most of the school systems. And one of the superintendents I was talking to, you know, was just across the state. It's a very difficult situation, and I think some of the things that the system is doing now is having some effect. But obviously, you know, we've got about 176 teaching units that we pay for. Now, some of those you could not do away with because they're involved in special education, but there are some hard decisions that are going to need to be made. And I know through attrition that some of that's going to, and positions not being refilled or filled is going to be is one strategy. And I was sort of impressed with what this committee came back with, but obviously we can't continue along the same track. But again, when you've got multiple things, you know, if you had a level student population that would fluctuate, you could manage that. But you know, when you've got this going this way and revenue going this way, obviously it's something, you know, that's going to need to be done. And but you know, we're not in as bad of shape as some of the surrounding school systems, based on the information I've been getting.
closing, do you have any remarks, Mr. Harbaugh?
Well, one thing that again, I feel like this community and this school system has been good to my family. And both of my kids have got a good education, and I met a lot of good educators, and I've got friends that are in the system. And I feel like it's a way to, I mean, you don't have to volunteer. I'm in a position in my life that I could sit back and enjoy my grandkids, but that's just not my nature. That's why I'm involved with kids out at Restoration Academy out in Fairfield. I work with 5th graders 2 times a month. You know, I have a passion for young people, and anything I get involved with, I'm gonna give it my best. And if the members of this council so feel like that I would be the best person, I would be honored. But I know you're going to make the right decision based on what you think is best for our school system.
Thank you for applying, and we appreciate your interview. Margie, if you...
Mr. Harbaugh, I would like to say that your father made a historical and fantastic recommendation for superintendent. So,
Well, he really liked Mr. Bumpus.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harbaugh.
Good evening,
Good evening. Come in, Mr. Hoover.
Appreciate the opportunity to present myself.
We can have up to 5 minutes if you like to tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're supposed to do on the Hoover School Board. Go ahead.
Running a business means taking care of production, marketing, accounting, and several other key areas. No matter how proficiently you pursue only one of those, if the others are neglected, you will not see success. Building a happy and tranquil family also depends on simultaneously progressing on a number of fronts. No complex task or project can be accomplished with blinders on. One must go about the business to understand all components that taken together comprise success, and then figure out how to move forward on them all at the same time. That's been my history. I've been a turnover specialist, and I've been successful in many venues in many states. Started off as a young man outside the greater Detroit area when unemployment was 18%, and the first recession was hitting up there that devastated many people. I was 16 years old and had keys to a restaurant, and I opened it and closed it because I was responsible to get the job done when others would not. And when the snow came, I walked a quarter of a mile in the snow with my keys and opened up the store to make sure that we had coffee for the people running up and down Woodward Avenue. But being smart and realizing that I was not going to be an architect and unemployment was horrible, I took myself and found my future family out in Oklahoma. Unemployment was 2%, the oil boom was going on, and I went to bigger pastures. And I had the opportunity to be successful there. And then the opportunity came to move to the great state of Alabama. First, that was not in the cards, it was to move to Louisville, Kentucky. And I'd already put a bid on a home, and my company said, we just bought one of the largest franchisees in the Hardy system, and we need you in Alabama. And I said, I'll be happy to serve. So along the way, let's talk about the accomplishments. In Oklahoma, exceeded profit plan all 7 years, increased sales 6 years in a row, increased average unit volume to first from last. And that was as an area supervisor. As a district manager, I served as a project manager for restaurant conversions in 2 markets and operated 6 units outside the corporate headquarters in Rocky Mount, North Carolina. I led and directed and trained staffs on new operation standards and supervised the timely opening of a new concept as a key director of conversion of Hardee's restaurants to Carl Jr. restaurants in the Oklahoma City market in Peoria, Illinois. Improved sales of 35% and profits of 16%.
Had a chance to move on to the regional vice president position, where being the only corporate person of a large franchisee of 111 restaurants, I was charged with totally converting a southeast market culture into a fast-paced San Francisco, so to speak, West Coast offense like the 49ers used to run. So I located a new office, I hired a complete staff of support, and we organized staff and opened a new regional office, set standards for daily, weekly, and monthly duties within office and communications for 111 units to the area, division, and corporate offices. Led a 90 million, 111 unit company from last place to first in sales ranking. Achieved sales improvements of 14%, remodeled 88 restaurants, which meant I completely closed each of them down on a Saturday and reopened them the next Saturday. 88 restaurants in 4 markets simultaneously in 8.5 months. Established management, career development, motivational conventions, training seminars, and community events. Implemented new on-site and centralized training programs for 4 levels of management, provided a continuous supply of personnel qualified for promotion. Did not want to leave after my market sold, went to work for another company at the University of Alabama. I led a 14-member management team that successfully executed the $10 million food service needs of students, faculty, staff, and guests of the university, including new concept development and cutting-edge innovations. Directed a management team securing a 10-year contract extension worth $130 million. Led another operations team responsible for procuring a new $100 million account at another facility. Increased sales $708,000 through implementation of improved operations and new sales strategies. Created a vision and implemented a new food concept and culture by opening a fresh food company. Realized a 17% annual sales improvement by opening 9 new units on campus, and developed new proprietary concept to manage the design and implementation process, doubling sales volume in 2 years. Introduced a new licensee on campus by replacing the tired concept, resulting in a 60% increase in sales in the first year, and supervised the remodeling of 18 outlets, creating a more exciting and dynamic environment for guests and employees. And lastly, down there, restructured a management team and supervision of outlets, producing an efficient and consistent operation, and achieving the highest customer survey ratings at that point. St. Vincent's Hospital, I championed a management team that successfully executed the needs of the patients, visitors, physicians, staff, guests of the hospital, including catering. Directed the management team and associates to aid sales team in securing a 10-year contract worth $140 million, including 3 new locations. Orchestrated a $1.25 million profit turnaround in the first 11 months, increased sales 8%, reinvented the retail locations by placing the right concept in the right place, and creating an environment that is attractive and was user-friendly.
Okay, Mr. Live, questions?
Well, Mr. Hilbert, thank you so much for your interest in citizens like yourself who are willing to engage and be a part of the process that keep our city great, and I appreciate that very much. You've sat in on many Board of Education meetings, I know, because I've been there. I've seen that. So you're hopefully acutely aware of where the financial state lies with the Hoover Board of Education. Give us, if you don't mind, a brief synopsis of where we are and where you see us going in the next 3 years or so.
Well, I can't tell you where you're going in the next 3 years because I'm not a member of the board. And with this Board of Education, without being glib, without being disrespectful, I don't know that based on the decision-making that we can see where the school direction is going, or the direction of the school board or the school system is going. I don't think we can quantify that. It would be nice to be able to do that. It would be nice to be able to have the confidence to be able to project that out. What I can say is based on the recent bond issue, and I don't know the exact financing of bonds because I haven't floated a bond and done those things, but having sat in the vehicle with the CEO of a corporation while the Wall Street investors drove around from store to store property and asked me questions with the CEO of the company sitting there so that I could give them valuable information so the people who invest in our company know that you need to be truthful and forthcoming on that. If you're going to package a bond, I know that sometimes you have to have enough money in there to make it equitable, 4 million as opposed to 3 million per se. But when you're looking at wants versus needs and you're putting in a carport at River Chase Elementary School, where I happen to have driven the bus, and the young men and the young women that would go out there and greet the cars each day that they pulled in, and they would open the doors and hold the umbrellas when it was raining, it seemed to be working pretty well, and it seemed to be teaching new students or older students some responsibility. Might be nice to have the carport. That's not a want. That's not a need, folks. That's a want. Not a good decision.
Dr. Locke? Skell? Okay.
Thank you again for being here. Appreciate that. And I know we have limited time, so I'll try to move pretty quickly. I have read your application, the answer to the questions. I appreciate that very much. One quick question. I noticed you had a Bachelor of Science in Education in '96. You may have answered it. I was interested in why you didn't pursue a career in education. I guess the opportunities just arose in the food service industry.
No, originally I went to a school that was non-accredited in Southfield, Michigan for architecture. It was a professional degree program, which means you were on a fast track. Instead of 2 15-week semesters, you went to 3 10-week semesters. So everything that you should have learned in 15 weeks, you learned in 10, they moved you through. You need to be a serious student. Realizing that I was not going to be successful, I was a B- C+ student, and all of my instructors were out-of-work architects that were teaching because the economy was so bad in Detroit. I needed to move on to greener pastures. I had recently worked at a restaurant where they had never made money. Within 6 weeks of me working there, revamping our system with the waitresses and the kitchen, we had efficiencies, food costs came down, the proprietor made money, and I said, I need to make a living doing this. So I moved to Oklahoma. As many of you are aware, as you're progressing through the ranks, I was doing well. I was a turnover specialist, which means I went into properties that were not doing well and turned them around. You still have to have that educational background, at least at that time, on your resume so that you did not get overlooked for a position. The fastest degree for me to achieve was the Bachelor of Science in Education.
Okay, got you. Mr. President, in the interest of time, I'll go ahead and pass. Adam, thank you.
Thank you again, Mr. Hill, for being here. The potential board member, if someone told you as a board member, it's not your job to fix anything unless it's recommended by the superintendent, what is your reaction to that?
My reaction is I need to abide by the rules that are set forth before the board. I'm only one of 5 people. I only have and carry so much influence. But if I can influence others on a decision that I think may be too soon to make or may be leading in the wrong direction, then I need to go through that process of the rules that are set up. One person on the board can't make the decision, and I'm not the person that would necessarily be the initiator of these conversations.
Thank you.
Mr. Green?
What goals do you hope to achieve if you are selected to serve on the school board?
None for myself. Absolutely none. I didn't wake up one day and said I want to be a school board member. What I did was I woke up one day and said I'm willing to serve. 5 years is a long time. I've done 7 years as a stewardship commissioner at a church. I did not list that. That's not an oversight. It just wasn't needed at the time. I've committed myself to 2 years a counselor to the pastor president of our congregation, and then eventually I became the pastor and the president of the congregation. I did not list that either because I don't want to bore everybody, and frankly, I don't like talking about myself. But when you're making that type of commitment, the goal needs to be that you're moving the business forward, and in this case, the business of the city of Hoover through the education system, where all the stakeholders are the ones that benefit. I still work here. When I moved out here, I originally set my office up here. I was able to brag to people I live on River Chase, and I go to my office on River Chase West, or East. That I could walk out the door, turn right. When I got done working, I could go out the door and turn right and didn't have to get lost. I still do that today. When I was a bus driver, I drove a mile to work, and when I work at Big Lots, I work 2.2 miles from the house. I'm a local boy. I've been here 16 years, but I'm a local boy. I picked this area because I wanted to be a part of this area.
Mr. Smith?
I've got a couple of questions. First,
myself as being semi-retired, and I know that sounds unusual to people, but when you do what I used to do, anywhere from 55 to 70 hours a week for 30 years, one job at 40 hours is a pleasure. I get to go and do that job every day. I used to be part-time as a school bus driver, and I was part-time with Big Lots, and we're doing just fine. Mrs. and I, our kids are growing and gone. And we were happy campers. I was able to work and take my vacations and have the time off I wanted. It was a great marriage.
What is
But I'm
the,
not going to sit back and let somebody else determine my future because of their indecisiveness or bad decisions.
what is your opinion of the leadership of the school system?
You know, that's a good question, and I'd like to change it a little bit. I don't know that I'm qualified to answer either the management aspect of it or the leadership part of it. I'm not there during the inner workings. I'm not there during the meetings. I don't know the types of things that are discussed, what's volleyed back and forth. I've been in positions before where I had 5 alternates in terms of making a decision, and all of them stunk. And my objective was to pick the least stinky one out of the 5. So that, yeah, it's going to be a bad decision, but it's the least of the bad, and we'll hopefully be able to massage it and move forward. But I question the decision-making ability. I question how things are weighted, pro and con, and how the end result is finally determined into what end that you're going for. One of the things I had stated is nobody has unlimited resources, and those that do don't function very well. When you have more money than you need, you don't function well. I've had to sit across the table from more than 100 employees and one-on-one in a 3-day period, take away some of their pay or lay them off. I've done reductions, and I did that personally. I've been on top of roofs, and I've looked at roofs myself, and I've pulled the belts, and I've tightened the pulleys, and I've looked at the condition of the roof to make a determination of whether or not it needs to be replaced, or whether my team and my technicians can go out there and do their job and get by for another year until I can spend that money more judiciously elsewhere and come back and do it. I don't know anything about the roof on Trace Crossings. Could the team have held it together for another year or two? Could they have patched it together? Could they have made it work? I wasn't there, but I've been there before. I've held the things together. I've directed the facilities managers to get the job done and been a part of it. I look at the decision-making process. How involved are the people? What type of knowledge do they have? You know, there's an old adage in business, and a lot of people have missed it over the years, and I would like to be indulged just a moment. But if you manage the pennies, the dollars will take care of themselves. And I can prove that we don't do that anymore as a society. When I was at the University of Alabama in St. Vincent's Hospital, one of the fastest ways I increase my sales and profit is with our today youth and the people that are on the go. A buck is a buck, whether it's 39 cents, 59 cents, 79 cents, or 99 cents. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. So if you bought an apple from me that should have been 59 for 99, or a Snickers bar that should have been 69 for 99, or a quarter breakfast bar for 99, do you know nobody cared? I immediately could go in, raise the price to 99 cents, I'd lose 2% of my transactions, and my sales and profits soared. Within 3 weeks, habits moved right along. People wanted the Snickers bar and the apple, they paid me a buck, because this didn't matter anymore. And once you manage these, which I did, because I priced them so that I could make a lot of money for my employer, once you manage these, you don't have to worry about the dollars. We look at the big numbers, the 4 million, and we forget about the pennies. We forget about these.
Any additional questions for council?
Prior to the school bus elimination decision, how many board meetings have you been to?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe 6 or 7 during my scouting time. It was probably 6 or 7, because we bring scouts to the board meetings and the council meetings. Yeah. Can't be perfectly sure. I used to teach citizenship as one of the merit badges.
Did you come the other night at Troop 93?
No, I did not. I'm no longer involved in it. Once my son moved on, I stayed 1 more year, and I admit I moved on as well.
We had a room full of them. They're good-looking kids.
Yeah.
I think they had 13. I think they had 13 evenings.
Did you know Mr. Callen?
Absolutely. Yeah. I did not pick the troop. My son picked the troop. That's the way that he and I worked it in Oklahoma and out here. I said, I don't want to be the dad that tells you where to go. But shoot, I met Bob, and I thought, man, I sure hope he picks his place. And he did.
Any closing comments? comments you'd like to make?
No, other than whether, you know, you folks, and this is not, I'm not trying to close on a derogatory statement, but we elected you to be city council members. That doesn't mean that you know how to interview people to be school board members. It doesn't mean that you know how to run a school board. Obviously, once you've been in the council and you've gone through that process, it starts to grow on you, it starts to grow on you. I've interviewed hundreds, I've hired hundreds, and unfortunately, I have fired well over 100 people. I've fired people for theft. I've had people be murdered in my restaurants before. I've gotten that call early in the morning where I had a manager that was murdered by an ex-lover. I've had drug addicts that have beat up management personnel. I've had gang members working for me. I've been through all of this, and I've seen all these people, and yet I've been able to work with all these people. So in terms of knowing people, that's really what we're paying you to do. We are paying you for your influence. We're paying you to make good, sound decisions. None of us come in here with a crystal ball. None of us come in here with a roadmap to success as a school board member. Nothing to prepare you for that. You can only base it on past historical successes and behaviors and how committed people are. Being committed for 5 years is a long time for voluntary work. That needs to be taken into consideration. It's Mom and I, and it's just us. She's not here this evening because we had a death in our extended family, so my wife is watching the grandkids for my daughter and her husband as they go through their process. But you got to know people, and you got to make the right decisions. Council needs to do that, and the school board membership needs to do that.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you.
You folks have a good evening.
Welcome, Mr. Blocker.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate you coming tonight. I can give you up to 5 minutes. Tell us a little about who you are and why you're applying for the school board.
Thank you. Is this all being recorded?
I'm not recording anything, so no telling who is.
Just BZA function. Thank you again. Guy Walker. This is 204 Shelterwood Circle. It has been for 15 years in the Bluff Park area. My wife, Christina, is behind me. She's a former Hoover City School teacher herself. We have 3 children, 18, who is a Hoover High grad. He's at Auburn now. 15-year-old son who's a Hoover High sophomore, and a 12-year-old daughter who's a 6th grader at Simmons. Steps out and do a little dad brag here that about 5 years ago, we were all 3 of the children the same year won the Finley Awards in their class. And we were told at the time that's the only time that 3 siblings have won in the same year. We were extremely proud of them then, and we continue to be today. I myself am an Auburn University grad, 1989, civil engineering. Christina and I have been married for 21 years, and as I mentioned, the last 15 of those have been our current residents in the Bluff Park area. I'm interested in this position because my wife and I both have a very vested interest in the continued success of the Hoover City school system. We are both very involved in our children's education. As I mentioned in my application, we chose to move to Hoover a decade and a half ago specifically because of the schools. But a lot of our friends moved here for the very same reason. When we started to get into the childbearing and child raising years, that became suddenly much more important than it had been when we were a very younger couple. Christina further, when she was fresh out of school, 1 quarter after I was at Auburn, chose to teach in the Hoover City school system because of its great reputation and excellent performance. The Hoover City schools, in my experience, provide many excellent opportunities for the children. Some of those that my kids have chosen to be involved in have been very beneficial to them. They've been band. All 3 of them have done band. And my oldest son is in band at Auburn. He and the middle child, the sophomore, both chose to do the Engineering Academy. The Engineering Academy at Hoover is a great program that really prepares them well for college. And it pays dividends in the long run for the students who choose to participate in these programs. Those opportunities, plus a lot of effort by the students,
students can produce some amazing results. Our son himself was a national merit finalist, which paid off as a scholarship money. And in fact, in 2012 and 2013 combined, I noticed that the Hoover High and Spain Park High combined in a 2-year period, the graduates in those two graduating classes totaled accepted over $50 million, or nearly $50 million in scholarships. That's an amazing result for a city school system over a 2-year period. The net result of an excellent school system is obviously a system that's great for the students, provides not just a good education, but many opportunities afterward. That in turn attracts families, and as I mentioned, it certainly attracted us. Attracting families increases, maintains at least, or more likely increases property values, and that's good for the entire community. Bottom line is that I want to help perpetuate that success for the families who come after us. Why I think I would be a good fit for this opening on the Board of Education is that I have experience making tough decisions, and I know that the board faces a lot of tough decisions coming up. I have been a partner in a successful engineering firm, and as a partner and a manager, you make a lot of tough decisions. The good decisions like hiring people, and some of the tough decisions like having to let people go. 10 years I've served on the Board of Zoning Adjustment here has provided some similar experience in a more public administration, public policy arena. We have a lot of hardship cases come to us. Some are more perceived hardship than they are actual hardship, but sometimes we can say yes and let somebody build a fence in the backyard, and sometimes we have to say no and tell them they can't put a sign that would help their business. But we have to keep in mind the bigger picture, and I think that's what a lot of what the school board faces is making decisions based on facts and keeping in mind the big picture. In short, I'm very committed to the cause of excellent education, and I think I would be very able to follow through on these commitments and help continue the success of Hoover City Schools.
Thank you. Which way we start last? Your turn, Mr. Smith?
I think so. I've got 3 questions, so to get my time, I'm going to have to kind of rapid fire here.
Okay.
How many school board meetings have you attended?
I've been to probably half a dozen, one of those being the board meeting where the Finley Award recipients were recognized, but I'm not a regular gallery attendee. I do keep informed on what's going on, and I've gone when I've been particularly interested in something that's on the agenda.
So it's subject driven?
It has been, yes.
Talk about the academies. Are the academies worth the deficits?
I can't give you a short answer on that. Every program I think would have to be evaluated on its merits, and the academies are not indispensable. They've been very valuable to my children, but if they are determined to be, a major contributor to the deficit, then they would not be able to stand above the line. Something's got to give.
Being that it's the meetings you went to are subject driven, and we already appreciate your service to the city. So there are several of us here already aware of what you have done for our community. Why do you want to jump in the fire?
Like I said, I want to contribute. I don't think I'm a complainer at all. I'm trying to be more productive. But it does bother me to see people complaining on the sidelines and not offering to do something. And that's what I want to do something. I don't think I have the magic answers, but I think I can help.
Thank you.
Mr. Green?
A couple of questions I have for you. Do you have the time to commit to the school board?
I do. As my kids have gotten older, those early evening ball practices have diminished, and one's off at college and another will soon be driving himself, so time is opening up. I've already devoted one Thursday evening a month and one Monday evening a month to BCA. I understand that the school board will be significantly more than that, but I will be giving, it would be a replacement and not in addition to.
have you had a chance to look at like the number of students, you know how many number of
Oh,
students
yes,
we
sir.
have in our system?
I'm pretty familiar. A little under 14,000. It seems to be growing at about 2% a year, a little over 250 students a year over the last 5 years. It doesn't take too many years of that to add up to another 1,000. And I understand that, there are school systems that wish they had that problem to deal with.
And the budget, do you know what the budget is for this year?
Roughly
Look at that.
165 million versus 147 of projected revenues.
I think it's 167 billion. And lastly, since 2008, there's been a significant decrease in revenue for the school system. Do you know how much the school system budget has decreased in the last?
I could use my cheat sheet here. I did bring some numbers. I do know that in 2007, there was that huge influx of some county sales tax money of, 83 million, which made the numbers a little difficult to, you had to subtract it off the bottom line to get a real equivalent year-to-year comparison. But I believe the numbers started off around 145 to 150 in 2008, somewhere in that range.
Well, I have since 2008, the system has incurred a $20 million loss in revenue.
I will use my cheat sheet here. Since the question's up, the numbers I had reviewed showed, 2008, the revenue projected 169 million, and the expenses of 171 million. And that's pretty much when the string of deficits appeared to start. And from that point on, and I realize the numbers I was able to pull are probably not as, they might not be the exact same numbers, but what I was able to pull from 2008 through the current projected for ending September 30th, 2014, totals to about 63 million of negative numbers. Won't take too many more years of that to wipe out what's left of the reserve.
Thank you.
Admiral?
Mr. Lockett, first of all, congratulations to you and your wife on the success of your family.
Thank you very much.
That's quite an accomplishment you have there. You're one of 9 children?
Yes, sir.
Where are you in the pecking order?
4. Yes, you can ask some of the sisters. I had 7 sisters. They might have different opinions. I was the 4th born, the first son.
Your dad jumped for joy, didn't he?
The story is that when I finally, after I was 4 and then 5 and 6 were girls again, when number 7, my only brother came along, and I would have been about 4 then. The story is that when the phone call came in, there was a boy, I rolled on the floor. So I jumped for, I don't know if I jumped, I rolled for joy.
That's just the opposite with my family. I'm one of 9 and 7 boys, and the 7th boy came along, my mother said, put him back in. That's what she told us after at the house, put him back in. How do you see your vision of the school board, or as a member of the school board, as it pertains to that you don't fix anything, you just take the recommendations of the superintendent and vote them yea or nay?
Well, I think, like any legislative body, which essentially the school board is, the superintendent being the executive body of the governmental system, if you will, of the schools, that I would, first of all, I would want to read the charter, which I have not. I haven't seen the charter, but I would want to read it to see how the roles are defined. I would anticipate that the board is set up as pretty much the legislative body to set policy, and the superintendent would execute the policy with some, there certainly wouldn't be day-to-day management at the class level, but there would be policy setting level, policy level powers or responsibilities.
Thank you.
Mr. Gill?
Thank you so much for coming in, Mr. Locker.
Thank you.
And your 10 years of service to the city with the BZA. Thank you very much. In your cover letter, you talk about the schools and the city as a whole, and you say that I believe that I could help secure the futures of both with a position on the board. Exactly what do you mean by that, and how would you do it?
Well, the first part, I think, like I mentioned, the reason that we moved to Hoover and didn't stay in the county, for instance, was because of these school intrinsically tied together. The city will not prosper or continue to thrive with an inferior school system. I think Birmingham is a great example. There's nothing to me in Birmingham that there are plenty of things to attract families, but I personally, as a parent, would not want to put my children in the Birmingham City school system. That it really is a difference maker in what brings people to a community, and that's why I see that the long-term growth potential for the city of Hoover is tied to the success of the schools. That said, it can't be, when problems come up with the schools, it can't be an issue of just throwing money at it and letting it go away. Hoover is not a bottomless pit. The citizens of Hoover, I'm one of them, are not bottomless pits. There has to be a balance drawn, and that's where I think I can help, is because I have, in every step of my career, had played a role of finding a balance between the workload and the number of employees you have, adding to that when times are good and trimming when times are bad. You've got to make those tough decisions as a business owner and a business manager. And frankly, not just in Hoover, but all across the country, times are not great. They haven't been since 2008. I think all of us who have 401ks will testify to that. The problems that the school faces are not just a matter of continuing to increase the revenue. That may be part of it, and maybe part of the answer is to strike a balance working with the city council to maybe change the funding formula. Like I said, I don't have the exact answer here. If I did, I would give it to you and we'd all go home. It's going to require some work. It's going to require some commitment to the cause to get in there and take a different approach than what's been done for the past 5 years at least.
Okay.
Did I cover that?
Yeah, you did. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Locke, I join them in thanking you for your interest in this position. You seem to have a really good grasp of the financial state of the school system, and you somewhat answered it right there, but I'll just kind of follow up with, what do you really see the role of the city of Hoover being in terms of financial support of the school system?
Well, obviously, some of the funding comes from property taxes, which the school can't impose itself. The city is the mechanism by which property taxes are maintained or added to or taken away, and part of the funding is through sales taxes. Neither is perfect. The end-all solution. Property taxes tend to be a little more stable, but they are, which is great when times are bad, but when you need an influx, it's hard to get a quick increase. The sales taxes are great, except when the bottom falls out of the stock market and people quit spending money and your sales tax revenues go way down. They're also way less predictable. So I think I see, no matter if I'm a part of the school board or not, that that is one area that I would hope that the city and the board would both look cooperatively to, is maybe adjusting, making some long-term, not gut reaction, but long-term adjustments to the makeup of the school system funding that might provide a little more stability with potential or with flexibility to hit some of these, to handle some of these one-time hits.
Any additional questions from the council?
Real quick, is there anything that you weren't asked that you wanted to talk about?
Nothing that I can think of right off the bat. I will add, I would point out that I am honest, I'm not a great typist. I said my wife's name is Christina, and then I noticed when I was reviewing my application, I spelled it Christine, so it really isn't what you're saying.
You'll hear about that later tonight.
That's a problem with her, not us.
I already fessed up to Mrs. Walker.
Like you're going out for dinner.
I did want that on the record.
Any other closing remarks you'd like to make?
I appreciate the opportunity to come and state my case to you. I've always, in every position I've ever held, have been a very hard worker, and that would not diminish one bit if I have the honor of being appointed to this open position on the school board. Like I mentioned, I've got a vested interest, not just in my children for the moment. I've got 6 more years in Hoover City Schools, but we plan to be here for a long time, and want to see the city school system continue to thrive.
Thank you, McConnell, we appreciate your application.
Thank you very much.